What's up, squad? We are going into average mode in a little bit more detail. And I know we have a video on average mode. So if you are newer to the channel, here is a link right here. Go ahead and check that video. It's great stuff, and I cover all the basics on average mode. This video is to go more in depth on why, in my opinion, I think average mode is slept on. Before we go into it, I actually don't want you to like, comment, or subscribe until you feel that you've got enough value out of this channel, and that might not be 2, 3, even 10 videos from now. But only then, if you feel that you got enough value out of learning about isometric training and the Isochain, then I would love your support by hitting the like, commenting, and or subscribing to the channel. With that, let's get into it. Okay, so I'm gonna do a quick test for you guys. So I'm pulling on it right now. I'm kneeling on the ground, so it's not really much force that's gonna be on this. And as I'm pulling, I'm feeling it in my right bicep a little bit. So you can actually see the muscle fibers activating there. Not too much force. I'll pull it over a little bit. And we're so used to hitting max. So that was a 52. I'm looking at it upside down. 25.6. The average amount of force throughout the entire lift, 21.8. Now here's why that particular bit of information is very important and, dare I say, powerful. When we start to go into hypertrophy, and I know that isometric hypertrophy is starting to be quite a buzzword on the channel, and understandably so. When we think about hypertrophy, we think about lifting weights. For decades, that has and still continues to be one of the best ways to elicit a hypertrophic response in training. But remember, when we talked about isometric hypertrophy in our video that we can find right here, remember, concentric phase was here, but isometric was right here. It was behind it. 96 and 95, I believe. The bodybuilding principles of hypertrophy all fall under TUT, time under tension. A lot of us know that. Newer members of the squad, it's all about time under tension. But amount of tension that's being exerted on the chain isn't enough. Well, then we're just not going to get bigger. We might have more endurance, which I'm going to talk about in a second, but we probably won't have what's required to elicit a hypertrophic response. Remember Henneman's size principle. During these 30 to 45 second contractions, we need to, one, hear that beep the entire time, but we also need to make sure that the right amount of force was being exerted. So that would be like if we had a newcomer in the weight room start lifting weights until they got really fatigued, like their arms are burning, they're doing chest press and their pecs are on fire, they're doing a lot of volume, but they're doing a lot of volume with 15-pound dumbbells. After a while, now if they're newer, it'll take less time for them to start to really feel the burn, but for an intermediate or especially an advanced lifter, it's going to take a lot longer, but eventually they will feel the burn. Why does it take them longer? Because the amount of force, the amount of weight they were working with is just not enough. Now, when we cover the time mode in more detail, I'll jump into that rabbit hole a little bit more. But today, it's more about average mode. Now, here's why when we're utilizing time mode, average mode is probably the number that we need to pay attention to more when we're going above 6 seconds. If you've performed a hypertrophy or especially an endurance lift, y'all endurance lifters, I know there's a few of y'all on here. I know there's a few. Y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. Even if you have the OG, you don't even need a display to know that you are fluctuating. I mean, it's starting to give out, it's starting to give out. You just put a little bit more and then starting to give out and starting to give out. Just put a little bit more. So that is starting to give out, that part fluctuating. So it's fluctuating what? On a downward curve. So we need to exert more force to bring it up. Now, of course, this is not me trying to sell the Dragon Door. The only problem there is that we don't know just how much. What is how much? So when we have the display here, we need to hear that beep, and now we're trying to hold over that load. As we're hearing that beep, it's signaling to us that we're lifting with the right amount of force. Now, the whole thing goes flying out of the window after we're 6 seconds. Remember the rise time. The reason why we're not going 100% for hypertrophy and especially endurance where it's only 20 to 30%, we're trying to keep a lot of power in reserve so that we can have enough at that lower level to sustain us throughout the entire lift. Real world application, think of if you're helping a friend move. If you're moving a couch or moving a fridge, you need to be able to exert the same amount of force as he's opening the door with his hand and holding the couch in his other hand. You got to make sure that it doesn't drop below, because then you got to bring it right back. The only thing is, if you drop it, you drop the couch or you drop the fridge. Tons of real world application here. So in order to get better, what do we need to do? We need to increase the average amount of time that we were able to sustain that lift. So let's say we were going for a hypertrophy hold of, I'm just gonna make up a number, 50. 50, we set it to 50, and we're able to hold it at around 55 for about 5 seconds. Now we need to hold it for 30 seconds because we're moving, just imagine this, we're moving the couch down the stairs, and then his back is turned to the door and he's trying to prop it open with his elbow. You know, if y'all ever moved, y'all know probably a similar scenario that I'm talking about right now. And you have to hold it. You have to hold it or we have a problem. But you can only hold it for 5. You have the strength. Right now, if it was only 6 seconds, you'd have it. But it's gonna start to tank, right? Because of the load of the object. So how do you train that and not drop that couch on your foot? You train with average mode. So set the load to the load that you need. And you want to make sure that you not only are holding that load for the 6 seconds, you're holding it for longer periods of time. Now, let's go back. That's more of an endurance example. Let's go to hypertrophy. If a 50-pound dumbbell is required for chest press growth, and we know that we need to be within that 8 to 12 rep range, mainly like 10 to 12 rep range for some hypertrophy, if we're only performing at chest 2 to 3 reps, that's great. You have the strength, but we're not really gonna see any size gains. You'll be strong enough to move that, but you won't really see any size gains. So what needs to happen? We need to increase the amount of sets, or we need to do remainder reps. So if you only got 3, then you gotta wait a little bit, get 4, wait a little bit, get 5, wait a little bit until you get to 10, so that you get the total volume required for the size. Does that make sense? So when we're on here, time mode is really important for that. But we want to make sure that while we're holding that load in time mode, that we are measuring our average mode number every single time we perform a hypertrophy lift. That A number is more important, believe it or not, I know this might be controversial actually, than the L, the load number. Is hitting the target load important? Yes, because the load needs to be high enough. But we also need the reps, aka the average amount of time we were able to sustain that load, to also be high. So you want that number to be high. Make sure that the load's there. So you want to be hearing the beeps, but you want to make sure that there's not too much fluctuation when performing these lifts. Honestly, you might think I'm about to say hypertrophy, especially endurance hold. Martial artists, I'm talking to you. Distance runners, I'm talking to you. Skaters, rock climbers, I'm talking to you. What happens if your grip goes out when you're climbing that rock? Toodles, buddy, you out, you gone, baby. So you gotta make sure that we're utilizing average mode. It's part of the cost of the chain. It's not just a dynamometer, guys. These features are amazing. They are absolutely revolutionary and they will change the game up. It's another way to gain incredible strength and incredible muscular endurance by simply having that little button right there. That is huge. Let's talk about training to failure. If you've ever trained to failure in the weight room, you probably already know that it's one of the most miserable gym experiences that you can ever experience. One of the worst, but you also know that it's one of the best things possible for breaking through plateaus and reaching new levels of strength or endurance. Taking a set amount of weight and going until your muscles literally cannot contract anymore. With the Isochain, you can literally pick that sucker up. You don't even have to go into load mode or time mode. You can just go into a lift and just try and hold it for as long as you possibly can. And so I'm gonna do it for you. So this is going to be very interesting. So I'm going to small talk with you guys while my more than likely right bicep starts to give out and burns really bad. So, oh boy, here we go. I'm already regretting it. Here we go. Okay, so you see the number. So we are pretty much in like the 20s to 30s. And by the way, here it is. Probably looks weird without context there, right? Over time, I remember the last time I did this was in the Iron Man video, which you can see right here. And I had to hold the contraction for, I think it was 1 minute, and my bicep locked up. It was under that much tension that I actually had to pause the video for about 15 minutes before I was able to release and flex up my arm. Now it is really burning right now. Oh my God, I'm not even putting up. Look at my arm right now. Oh my God, you see the veins? Whoo, whoo. Okay, it's dying and it's dead. Oh my God. Oh, whoo. Oh man. When you do these lifts, guys, chances are some expletives will come out of your mouth. Am I the only one? Max mode, 31. Wasn't really going for that. I wanted to see how long I was able to sustain. So that is sad. That I had 13.5 pounds of force was my average. So over the course of that duration, I wasn't even timing it. I was just going until my muscle gave out. On average, I was holding about 13.5 pounds of force. So if we were looking at it through a progressive overload lens, in order for my biceps to be more efficient at that angle, I would need to have that number a little higher. So I would need to be exerting more force throughout the duration of that exercise. That makes sense? But what are your thoughts? I would like to know what you think about average mode. Go ahead and comment down below. I will see you next video. Peace.